Hello again with another video showing you what I've done to a bus. This is how I live, and today I'm going to talk about my electrical system. So, looking here, you can see three components. That is an inverter. It converts DC into AC electricity. That is a battery. Self-explanatory. That is a solar charge controller. Those three components right there constitute a significant amount of my electrical system. Before I actually had solar, which I relied on my generator, I just had those two components. Adding solar, you need to have a charge controller to control how much voltage is going into your battery, how much voltage and amperage. Because if you do too much, it can blow up your battery, and that's fairly expensive depending on which battery you use. I will go over solar later, but right now I'm just going to talk about my power generation and distribution. So, if you're going to design and build your own electrical system in a van or a bus, it's going to be very specific to your circumstances. So in my circumstances, this is how I set it up. I've got a lot of different circuits. I do not have a distribution box like you find in a house. A lot of my circuits are pretty much just that. You have two plugs here. One, two. This one, you see how they go into this? You know what, now that I think about it, I'm just gonna go ahead and do this because I gotta keep resetting this shit. There we go. Keeps popping the reset button. Anyway. So, this is an inverter, and it takes electrical power from DC and turns it into AC. If you want to use any kind of AC appliance, you have to have an inverter. So, I have two circuits. One right here goes up, plugs into this guy, and just keeps going all the way around. You can see that there. And goes up to two outlets. One of them is hanging off the wall, but anyway. I got two outlets that I can use electricity off of that circuit, and I have another circuit here. Goes up. Follows this line all the way over there, and that's where I get most of my electrical use out of. The one that's under the bed right there is very useful for things that I just want to have convenience to access, but most of my electricity comes off of that guy. I use it for my television, my Xbox and PlayStation, and charging things. That's pretty much what I use it for. So we have AC, but where does the DC power come from that is converted into AC? Well, there's three things that feed my inverter. One is my battery. Well, let me retract that. Three sources of power: solar, oil, gasoline. That's all the oil when I do the oil changes. Generator's running, goes to one plug, goes up through the door, goes through the door, goes up to this distribution box. Now, what does this distribution box go to? This goes up to here and here. This has full connection, just one straight connection. And when I want to charge my battery from the generator, I plug this in. My inverter charges and converts AC or DC power into AC. So if I want to charge my battery off my generator, I plug my inverter in and that charges the battery. So that's one thing. So I have a generator in there, and then up here, this is where my power comes from my solar panels. Goes up from there all the way down, goes to my charge controller, and then goes to the battery. So those are my two sources. Now, if I want to go to a campground, which when you don't have black and gray tanks, a lot of campgrounds don't like you. But if I ever get to go to a campground, then I take this guy and plug it into the campground hookup, and I take this and plug this wire into this. So the campground power would go directly to my distribution box, and thus I can run my inverter directly off the power from the campground. So basically I have three options for getting power from. While the sun's up, I can get solar to charge my battery, etc. Now, obvious question. Does my inverter have enough power to supply everything? Absolutely not. I'm currently running my air conditioning. That's why the generator is on. I'm currently running my air conditioning. And air conditioning is beautiful. I happen to be in Florida right now. But air conditioning is a necessity in places like this because it's not only so hot, but it's extremely humid. So the AC gets rid of humidity, and that's ridiculously important down here. So anyway, again, electrical. As I said, this one is one circuit. This one, more than one circuit. In my last video, I talked about how I get AC power to my shower system. Well, these guys are on two separate circuits. This one powers one circuit, which is not controlled by a switch. This one is connected to this circuit, which is controlled by a switch. Water heater. If I turn this on, flip it over, this will turn my water heater on. And this circuit powers the outlet that powers my water heater. This one is the big pump, the 1 horsepower pump. So these are on two separate circuits. This is also on a separate circuit, and I dedicate that to my air conditioner. This runs all the way outside through the floor and follows out to where my air conditioner is. It's my air conditioner. It's a wonderful thing. It's a mini split system. It's one of those DIY options that you don't need to have to, vacuum out the lines and everything. It comes pre-charged. You just plug it in. So the power goes from here all the way to that circuit I showed you. These guys go into the air handling unit on the inside. You see, it's on a platform. I had to build that platform separately. And this one is bolted to the floor. It's got one on each side. Goes through the wall, Got a little foam insulation there. Goes through the wall, and the platform's outside, and it holds up my compressor unit of the AC system. Now, do I need AC all the time? Absolutely not. So, go right here. If I don't need to run my AC, which I do today, I just open this up and I got plenty of cross breeze. These were the original emergency exits for the bus. And so when I don't need them, I just close them and lock them. Still my stick here. And I won't go into the windows right now, but that's basically how that works. I have separate circuits for each individual appliance, basically. This inverter is a 1500 watt inverter. I usually don't get up that high. I've tested it on a 1500 watt appliance. I think it was a space heater. But it will overheat, and then it will knock out a fuse or a breaker on there. So anyway, it's when you're designing an AC system, it has to be very specific to your particular needs. So that's important. So I've talked about AC. This converts everything into AC, and all my AC stuff comes off of these two circuits. I do charge my motorcycle off of this, keep my battery up. But this is powered by the battery directly, or by the charging circuit that I use this guy for. So as far as the battery is concerned, the battery can supply DC, as you probably know. DC power is not the same as AC power. AC and DC power are entirely different. So they have to be on different circuits, entirely different circuits. I have a distribution box for my DC stuff. That comes directly off the battery. The battery is charged by pretty much everything, and everything pretty much runs through the battery. So your battery choice is extremely important as well. This is an AGM battery. I'm probably going to convert over to lithium because I finally found a good one that I actually like. But either one really works. This one has a short half-life and a short life span compared to lithium. It doesn't charge as fast, and it doesn't have as much charge life as a lithium does, because a lithium can go down to about 80% of use, whereas this can only go down to about 50%. So if you have a lithium battery and you use up 80% of the charge value, then then you need to recharge it. Whereas this, you don't want it to go down below 50% because it will kill your battery. So anyway, it goes down. This supplies negative. This supplies positive. And so that's directly off the battery. These guys are just solar stuff. So the solar, let's see here. You can see how this one goes from the charge controller into the battery. Everything goes up basically through the battery. I mean, that's pretty much my electrical system. You got AC where you want it, and you got DC where you want it. So I've talked about pretty much all my AC circuits. Now I'm going to take you up and show you a little bit about the DC options that I have. This guy right there, standard DC charging block. I can hold on, there we go. I can wire in a cigarette lighter plug, and I can use that for whatever I need to. I haven't really needed to so far, but if I want to charge anything off the DC power, I have to go through this. So if my inverter is off for whatever reason and I don't want to turn the inverter on, I can get this directly from the battery. So that the point for me was having as many options as I can possibly have. If I want to charge my phone or my electronics or whatever, I have a DC hookup which works just like any other car cigarette lighter charger port. So this goes up, goes down, and then it follows along all the way back to the back, straight to the battery. As far as electrical, it's for my appliances. All I really use is my entertainment system. So I have I think it's a 43-inch TV, and that's mounted to a pedestal, and that's bolted to the table. And then all the wires that I use for all my different electronic stuff goes straight through a hole right there. And this guy built that. It's kind of like an airplane in here. I'll go over this stuff, but just remember this. Threaded rod goes down, holds up this end of it. So that's really, really stable. And in order to distribute the weight, I have these just drilled straight into the wall, because it's fiberglass. The wall of my bus is fiberglass, so it's not very substantial, shall we say. So you want to distribute your weight adequately so that you don't have anything falling out. So, got a PS4 up there. Got an Xbox. I'm pretty much set. So this is my plugged in, but you'll notice it continues on. It goes through here, wired in here, and then it continues on. I thought this was a good idea, but these things do not hold up very well. They don't hold onto the wall very well, but they work. So this one is fed from the bottom, and you'll notice it keeps going. Where does that go? Well, I'll show you. What happens is I've wired my house battery directly into my bus. Let's see if I can figure this out. There we go. So this switch wired directly to the battery. I can turn it off if I need to. And then that continues down to this switch. This one is empty. Nothing happens. But you notice the lights are off. Now the lights are on. If I kept this on, my inverter would charge my battery. So that's how that works. So this switch right here, you notice that the stereo system's off. Now it's on. If I flip the switch, it's off. So that comes directly from the battery in the back. The reason I'm laying all this out is because I'm showing you that the house battery and the truck battery are separate. You do not want to run down your truck battery, especially if you have a diesel, especially if it's a 6.0. But you can look that up, I guess. But yeah, that's pretty much how my electrical system works. These speakers were already wired in. I just had to rewire them to get my new stereo system. So I have two in the front, and I got two in the back. So that's pretty much my entire electrical system. I'll cover this right now. This is what the floor looked like before I cut the hole in it. This I built out of a piece of wood, obviously, and I bolted it into the frame. So I essentially have a basement in my bus. And all it's used for, as you saw, was the old oil that I use to do oil changes, and a gasoline store for the generator and the generator itself. So it works really well. It's kind of a pain in the ass to turn the generator on every time I need any high draw electrical appliance. I have to use it every time I want to charge my battery if I don't have enough power from the sun, and if I want to take a shower I got to run the generator, because the pump runs quite a bit of amperage, and it runs way more power than my inverter can tolerate reasonably. So that's my power distribution. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. It was definitely a piece by piece process, but this is what I ended up with. Once you get the bones of your system, then it's just tweaking it from then on. So if you ever design your own electrical system, maybe this will give you some ideas. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Bye.